Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome all members and guests to our March 5th, 2024 Board of Health meeting and remind everyone our meetings are web streamed and televised. Please ensure your phones are on silent. With that, I will call the March 5th, 2024 Board of Health meeting to order and roll call. All members of council are present with the exception of Councillor Columbus, who sends his regrets, and Councillor Huffman, who is attending, Board Member Columbus and Board Member Huffman, who are attending. Board Member Columbus sends his regrets. Board Member Huffman is attending virtually. Okay, is there any changes or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none, we have no consent, no early closed, no deputations, and no presentations. So we'll move along to item 8, which is the approval of the Board of Health meeting minutes from February 6th, 2024. Councillor Board Member Michelli moves, seconded by Board Member Berry. All in favor? That is carried. And Councillor Huffman, I can't see your camera to tell if you're, oh, there, yep, carried, okay. Item 9 is communications, of which there are 2 items. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to receive items 9.1 and 9.2 as information. Moved by Board Member Van Passen, seconded by Board Member Brunton. All in favor? Carried. And staff reports. Item 10.1 is the food insecurity and the 2023 Ontario Nutritious Food Basket report, HSS 24007, and I'll turn it over to Sarah Page, General Manager of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to introduce Laura Goyette, who is our dietitian at the Health Unit, to present this report.
Thank you, Sarah. Today I'm here to provide a high-level overview of Board of Health Report HSS 24007, Food Insecurity and the 2023 Ontario Nutritious Food Basket Survey. Next slide. As per the Ontario Public Health Standards, boards of health are mandated to monitor food affordability at the local level, and we do this using a data collection tool called the Ontario Nutritious Food Basket Survey. This survey consists of 61 food items based on the 2019 food guide, and we survey 9 grocery stores across the 2 counties in the month of May. The results from our 2023 survey show that the average cost to feed a family of 4 a healthy dietary pattern is $1,122.43 per month, or $259.22 per week, and this is a 5.5% increase from the year prior. Next slide. Income scenarios help to put food affordability into context. And in Appendix A of the report, you'll see 10 income scenarios, including a family of 4 earning a median income after tax. And you'll see in this scenario that this family would spend about 12% of their income on food. While there's no one definition of what affordable food is, somewhere between 10 and 15% is agreed upon. In the report, we've highlighted 2 of the most dire situations. The first one would be a single person on Ontario Works who, after spending their income on rent and food, would already be almost $150 in debt. And the second scenario is a single person receiving Ontario Disability Support Program. This situation is slightly better, with but only $85 at the end of the day after paying for rent and food for all other basic essentials. So this would include transportation, personal care items, clothing, etc. For the purpose of this report, we define food insecurity as inadequate or insecure access to food due to financial constraints. And our most recent data that we have at the local level for Haldimand and Norfolk is that 16.7 or 1 in 6 households are food insecure. And this ranges in severity, ranges from worrying about whether there will be enough money to buy food at the end of the month to physically skipping meals. Food insecurity is a significant public health problem as it's associated with increased risk of chronic disease, infectious disease, injury, poor oral health, poor mental health, and premature death, and is also associated with higher healthcare costs. When we look at what effective interventions are to address food insecurity, we see that food insecurity is not a food issue. There is enough food. It's truly rooted in income. So we're looking at interventions that effectively increase household income or address related issues such as housing, childcare, transportation. Community food programs do an incredible job of providing emergency relief to the most severely food insecure households in our region. However, research shows that it does not reduce the rates of food insecurity. Examples of effective interventions in the past have been the Canada Child Benefit introduced in 2016, which saw severely food insecure households with food insecurity, decrease by 30%. Also, the Old Age Security Pension Guaranteed Income Supplement, your risk of being food insecure drops by 50%, going from 64 to 65 when you're eligible for those benefits. Inflation in 2022 reached a 40-year high, so this is obviously a pressing issue at this time. In 2023, ODSP began indexing payments to inflation, so in July of 2023, recipients saw an increase in 6.5%, which is a positive step forward. Ontario Works, on the other hand, is one of the few benefits that is not indexed to inflation, and rates have been frozen since 2018. So what can the Board of Health do to address these issues? The first ask is to urge the provincial government to support indexing OW payments to inflation. And then the second is our Ontario Public Health Standards are currently under review, and to support the continued monitoring of food affordability, as this gives us local data and it helps us to prioritize the most vulnerable situations and where we should target our advocacy efforts.
I'm just going to stop you there because we lost Teams, which I think means Councillor Board Member Huffman is gone and the presentation. So could we just take a pause for a moment?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Okay, we're back. Can you hear us, Board Member Huffman?
Yes, I can hear now.
Okay, and then I'm assuming we're still live stream, web stream, televised?
I believe yes.
Okay. All right, Laura, any other comments, or were you ready to turn it? Okay, you were good? All right, thanks for your presentation and thanks for joining us today in person. Questions from Board of Health to staff? Board Member Van Passen, then Huffman.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. At the advisory committee, I had asked that you circulate the actual list of items on here, or in the food basket. And when I was reading through there, I was quite surprised what's in there, what's not in there. So I guess my assumption is that it's more so to have a standardized listing to see if the prices are going up and down, rather than the menu that you get to choose from to eat. So have I reached a proper conclusion on that?
Through the chair to Board Member Van Passen. So, what the Board of Health has done is, and this is something that we have been working on for a number of years, is to look at the because the items are based on Canada's food guide, there is a wide variety of items that could be included. But essentially, the items are based on the National Nutritious Food Guide. So if you were to follow that dietary pattern, you would meet all of your requirements for your micro and macronutrients. So they use the DRI tables, which is what every individual would need to have to meet all of their recommendations from a nutrition perspective. It also does, of course, include the same basket of food, so that you are looking at food prices, and the National Nutritious Food Basket is included in the market basket measure, which is how they measure cost of living. So it is twofold, but the items do reflect what it would take to meet all of your nutritional requirements based on a sedentary individual meeting 95% of all nutritional requirements.
Thank you very much. I was just surprised, like first thing on my list would be the 50-pound bag of potatoes, the 10-pound bag of rice, 10-pound bag of oatmeal that you actually have to cook, but not little packets. But if it's sort of a standardized thing to compare this area to other areas year over year, I think I grasp the concept. So thank you.
Board Member Huffman.
Thank you, Chair Martin. I was just, thank you very much for the report. It's very informative, and it's also very depressing, actually, that we do have in this day and age individuals struggling so much with food insecurity. And I like that we make a point of that food insecurity is rooted in monetary rate, not that we don't have food. It's that poverty increases the food insecurity significantly. I was just wondering if it would be possible for our Board of Health to submit a letter to the Ontario provincial government requesting a look at the OW rates, that they haven't been indexed to inflation. I know ODSP has. There's still lots of room for improvement for both of those social programs. So that would be my recommendation.
Thanks, Board Member Huffman. Are there any other questions? Board Member Michelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff. I'm looking at the table 1, the breakdown of the social assistance scenarios, for people who are on Ontario Works and for other people who are on ODSP. And I'm just wondering, it's quite clear that a person on Ontario Works, their net income is in a pretty large deficit, but the ODSP looks like there's a slight surplus, but that is based on the fact that the average rent for people is $882 for a 1-bedroom, and I do believe that we had a previous report sometime way back that actually the average in some of our communities for 1-bedrooms is much higher than 882, isn't it? So that would mean that even people on ODSP are probably at a pretty large deficit at the end of their income cycle.
Through the chair to board member, we use CMHC data for our housing, and so this is the best source of data that we have for rental rates. However, there are limitations to this. It is collected, once a year, and it's 3 bedrooms, apartments that they're looking at, 3 units. There must be 3 units. So if you're looking at somebody who's recently started this program and they're looking for an apartment, it's likely going to be a higher rate, because what this takes into consideration is people who've been living in apartments and have been protected from rental increases. So it's the average of that amount. So certainly what that number would look like if you or I were going out to look for an apartment today, that number could be certainly much higher.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple. At the beginning, you mentioned the 9 grocery stores across the 2 counties. I missed the first part before that. Can you just dig into what the survey actually looks like?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so the survey is a 61-item tool, and it's based on the National Nutritious Food Basket. So prior to 2019, we used a separate tool that was provided to us from the provincial government, but now we've had to update that tool. So in 2022 and 2023, it's a new data collection tool. The 61 items are based on Canada's food guide. So visually, if you're looking at that, you'll potentially remember that half of the items are fruits and vegetables. So in that tool, almost half of the items are fruits and vegetables. It's a variety of fresh, frozen, canned, and it's meant to reflect the average purchasing patterns of Canadians while still reflecting the food guide.
Okay, and then, sorry, is it an independent study or is it our staff going out across?
It is our staff going out across the 9 grocery stores. We consult with our epidemiologists to make sure that those grocery stores are representative of the 2 counties. And then during the month of May, it's a 2-week period to make sure that the prices remain consistent. And then we survey those 9 grocery stores and use the data collection tool to collect the data.
Okay, thanks. So do we have, and I don't know if this is still relevant or true, but I recall for many years, food banks weren't able to have fresh produce in their local food banks. Is that still the case? Do you know?
So I believe my understanding of this is as long as they have the proper facility, like they can store it safely, that they're able to have fresh produce.
Okay, so when we look at, from a health unit perspective, our community gardens and our food banks and so on, is that information taken into account? I'm just wondering with the 16%, the 1 in 6 households, is that giving consideration to the people who are already collecting from those sites?
So in terms of the cost that we get on a monthly or a weekly basis that we report on, that's just grocery stores. So that would not be, we're not assuming that people are using a food bank.
So it's 1 in 6 per household, 16% if they are fully funding or fully collecting groceries from grocery store entities only.
Sorry, the 1 in 6 is the amount of households in Haldimand and Norfolk counties that are food insecure.
Yes.
And then we don't have any local statistics, but on average, what we see is about 20 to maybe 25% of people who are food insecure would access a food bank. So it's not that 1 in 6 would be accessing a food bank in the 2 counties. Mm-hmm. That is the rate of food insecurity, and it's because it ranges in severity from just worrying about whether you'd have enough money to pay for food. So those individuals might not access a food bank versus those who are skipping meals are more likely to access food banks.
Yeah, it begs the question about what we do in the community with community gardens and where we allow that produce to go, and if there are any, hurdles or red tape through the health unit to get that food places. And it would be, it's really unfortunate living in Ontario's garden that we are top producers in so much produce that we would have these numbers in our community. So it's concerning, but it also raises a potential opportunity. And I would be interested in the health unit staff's perspective on what we can and should be doing, given that we have so much diversity and so much production happening here. Are we maximizing the ways that we can get that food out to people in a reasonably priced manner? And I also am interested in school programs, like breakfast programs and so on. I know we've talked about it before, but what does that do to offset those costs for families if they are concerned about having enough money for food every day? Does the school provide a meal a day or every couple of days for a child that can offset that for them? I'd be interested in digging into it a little bit more. So if you had any additional thoughts or something came up before, another report came back to us, I'd be keen to hear more about it. Okay, we have a staff recommendation in front of us, and that covers off Councillor Huffman's suggestion. Are there any other comments, amendments? If not, I'm looking for a board member to move and second. Board Member Van Andrieschie? Oh, go ahead, if you want to speak to it. Councillor Huffman moves.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm off of what Councillor Huffman has indicated. Just a motion to send this forward, or could I get a?
Yeah, so the staff
reread of
recommendation
that?
in front of us is to receive
Oh, I
it
don't see it.
as information, and that the Board of Health correspond with the provincial government, applauding the changes to Ontario disability programs, but also encouraging the same inflationary changes to occur to the Ontario Works recipients. And further, that we write a letter to the Ministry of Health, Long-Term Care, and support of continued monitoring of food affordability by public health units as part of the revised 2025 Ontario Public Health Standards.
More than happy to second that.
Okay. Moved by Board Member Huffman, second by Board Member Van Andrieschie. Any debate or discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. I also would be, so just out of curiosity, is staff going to write this letter and then send it, or what?
To you, Madam Chair, yes.
Probably should have added this before the vote, but I'd be interested in adding some other Norfolk County relevant statistics as to why the financials are presenting the way that they are. We just had that interesting BMA study. So unless I see any opposition from board members, providing a bit of Norfolk County context, I think would go a long way. Okay, great. Thanks, Laura. Next is 10.2, the Rabies Program Update 2022-2023, HSS 24006, and over to Alexis.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm here today just to provide a brief update regarding the rabies program for 2022 and 2023. In 2023, we received a total of 478 bite scratch reports. Out of the ones that we kept, there was 434 left. As you can see from the chart, the vast majority of these bite scratch reports were as a result of dogs, followed by cats, bats, and other animals. Out of the 434 investigations that we did, a total of 51 people received post-exposure prophylaxis, and out of the bite reports too, the type of scratch or bites, 406 were bite reports, and 18 of them were scratch reports, and then 12 were others. And that is my brief update for today.
Thank you very much. Board Member Van Andrieschie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. We used to have the rabies program where we get the shots for the cats and the dogs, and we don't do that anymore. Am I correct in saying that?
Through the chair to you. So we don't do that. That would be the SPCA who does that. We deal with only human health stuff, but there is, from what I understand, a program in Haldeman where they do vouchers for reduced cost rabies vaccines for their animals.
Okay. I will note that out in the country, we do see more obviously rapid-looking coons and possums are real bad during the day. But I wouldn't know if a possum does go around during the day. But I know that the raccoons shouldn't be out there like they are. But it seems to be creeping upwards, if you know.
We did have more this last year than we did previously.
Yeah.
But we do have a good bait program. The unfortunate thing is that they don't do it in the States, so animals don't know borders, so they tend to come over through Niagara and Buffalo.
But we still do have the bait program where they drop the bait for
Yes.
the wilder animals. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, bats do not take that bait. So the positive cases that we have had were a result of bat bites.
Oh, from bats as well, eh?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we had pretty healthy bats, but okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Brunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is under the other category. You say 26 other. Would there be coyotes in there at all?
Through the chair to you, we haven't had a report of a coyote in 2023, but there could be in the past and obviously in the future. But we've had reports from squirrels, llama, other sorts of wild animals. So it could be anything.
Those would be, you say llamas?
Yes, we did have a bite report from a llama.
Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was contagious or anything.
That's right.
Would a lot of them be raccoons in that?
There are a
category?
lot of raccoons that we get bite reports for, absolutely.
Anything other odd in that group or no?
Squirrels, raccoons are the predominant animals in the other group.
Squirrels, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's odd. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My only question would be, who does the public contact and when? Because quite often we hear from the public about animal sightings,
Yes.
but we,
Through you to you. For bite scratch reports, there is a duty to report from police, vets, doctors, hospitals. They are required to report any bite or scratch incident that they are aware of, and that's who we get a report from. Sometimes we get victims who report to us as well.
but do not report to the health unit if there's an animal sighting that
That's
has not
correct.
come in contact with you.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to adopt the recommendation before us. Moved by Councillor Brunton, seconded by Councillor Van Andrieschie. Discussion and debate. All in favor? That is carried. And our last staff report is item 10.3. It is the HNHU 2023 Q4 report, budget amendment, CS 24025. Michael?
Thank you, Chair Martin, and through the chair to the board. As per the Ministry of Health's reporting requirements within the 2023 amending agreement, the Haldeman Norfolk Health Unit is required to report on actuals and forecasted spending quarterly, in addition to program data and statistics. This report seeks to provide that update to the Board of Health by requesting a budget amendment to satisfy ministry requirements and ensure COVID-19 programs remain 100% funded by the ministry. This report splits out department programs by COVID-19, base, and one-time. For COVID-19 programs, there is an expected budget surplus of $507,591. This surplus is driven by salaries and benefits, cleaning services, rental costs, and PPE. Overall, as COVID-19 pressures reduced, staff time was spent in base mandatory programs. The 2023 budget for COVID programs was also established conservatively based on historical actuals, with sufficient contingency for additional outbreak management or vaccine distribution included. For base mandatory programs, there is an expected budget surplus of $1,108,000. Salaries and benefits and interdepartmental charges drive the surplus for these programs. The ministry requires boards of health to reduce program budgets for COVID-19 programs to remain 100% funded. This budget amendment will not affect year-end results for these programs. It is simply an administrative procedure to ensure levy funds are not used for COVID-19 programs. The budget will be reduced to the minimum cost share. The Ontario Seniors Dental Care Program has an expected deficit of $513,158. This is the only program where costs must be tracked on their own from mandatory programs. Program uptake continues to increase without a funding allocation to match these costs. A request has been made to the ministry for reimbursement of excess spending, and communication on this request has not been received to date. If approval is not given, the shared municipal levy will be required to support the deficit. Staff continue to converse with the ministry on the expectation that the program remain 100% funded. Table 1 in the report provides a look at one-time funded projects. 3 of the projects had not started by December 31st, however, they are on track to be completed prior to the March 31st deadline. Mitigation funding will be used to offset the shared municipal levy from the cost share change where the ministry reduced funding from 75 to 70%. The school-focused nurses program ended on June 30th, and the PHI practicum program successfully utilized 2 students during a summer work term. The net result of this amendment is that COVID-19 costs will be fully funded by the ministry. The current expected shared municipal levy surplus for the 2023 calendar year is $855,656. And with that, staff will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? Board Member Vanden Driesche.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. My curiosity would be on the the dental program, the seniors dental program. Because there is a change in what's been happening that you can apply if you're a certain age, does the health unit take that into account? Say, for instance, if you have someone there that's 70 years and older, they can apply for that assistance. Are we directing them to wait unless it's an emergency, or are we handling all the cases regardless of age?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So Ontario Seniors Dental Care Program is, it has an age limit of 65 and above with an income of around $37,500 for a family. I think the program you're referring to is there is a federal program coming, which is different from it, and the threshold is around $90,000. We are still waiting for guidance from the ministry how best to refer people to two different programs. So currently what is happening is this program is working through the community dentists. And to mitigate some of those costs, so what we have taken few steps. The first step is, and this is for 2024, that we have identified a threshold out of the total budget so that we remain, and that is on a monthly basis, that we remain within that budget. That is one. Secondly, with the finance department, we are having a monthly meeting with them to track our costs. The third thing is we communicated to our community staff, and that is a direct answer to your question, that all the new clients, they are referring it back to us, because currently we are at the final stages of finalizing our recruitment, that we'll be having our dentist and our own staff within the health unit. And the fourth one is for the temporary moment, we have paused all the non-essential services like scaling and cleaning, and they are referring back to us. So I hope with all of these measures, this year will be within the budget. But I just want to mention that on numerous occasions, there was a strong commitment from the Ministry of Health that this is a 100% funded program, and I'm very hopeful they are going to fund this variance. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, and I do agree, where hopefully the ministry does come across and realize that it's a benefit and that it should be fully funded. Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, the $855,656 is the shared between Haldeman and Norfolk, so Norfolk is 513 of that currently anticipated to the levy. I took just 60% of the 855. Is that accurate?
Through the chair, yeah, we will have to finalize for year end, but the cost share, but that's a fair estimate for now. Yep.
Okay, and staff are recording and remembering that I want a separate page in our budget for all provincial implications. Thank you.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, Councillor or Board Member Van Passen.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I think at a previous meeting, or it might have been at the budget time, that we discussed that dental program. And I'm not sure if we ever gave staff clear direction. I think there was a couple of options of just running it on an as-needed basis until the day the money runs out and then shutting it down come August, September, October, whatever that day is, or whether we were going to subsidize the need, or whether we sort of pace ourselves to try to make it work out. But I don't think staff ever got a clear answer from the board on that. I wonder if we should give them clear direction on that.
I agree. We had the conversation about the 200,000 over budget, and then we left it with staff. We were trying to bring the services in-house, and so we left the conversation there and didn't provide any direction, but I agree. Go ahead.
I did ask at the committee level Like, we can't just keep the surplus from COVID and apply it to dental, but that's not how it works, right? That's just too easy and simple. So, but I wonder if staff will be bringing us an update on the best options, or maybe we'll get some answers on full funding or whatever, but would expect that in the near future so we can give clear answers to the public. So.
Sure, so maybe a separate senior dental report with an update. When could we expect something to come?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So we can have that report maybe within June, July, I would say. Just to give you an update, so there are pressures with this program, and it's across Ontario because of so many reasons. So we'll be presenting a report on our annual service plan, where Ministry of Health has asked us to put that pressures within our annual service plan so that they can look into it. So we'll share a detailed report on this. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's fine as long as it doesn't fall behind that, and then we can take that information to AMO as well as an update. Okay, staff report is before you, or recommendation, sorry. CS 24-025 HNHU 2023 Q4 report budget amendment be received as information, and that the approved 2023 Haldeman Norfolk Health Unit operating budget be amended as outlined in the report, and further that the Board of Health endorse that COVID-19 programs remain 100% funded by the Ministry of Health. Moved by Board Member Duthie, seconded by Board Member Berry. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We have no bylaws today. We have no motions today. Does any board member wish to introduce a notice of motion? Seeing no hands, does any board member have any other business to address? Seeing nothing. Okay. I'm looking for a mover for the following motion, that Board of Health enter into closed session at 1:36 p.m. pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Section 239(2)K, to discuss matters pertaining to a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Moved by Board Member Michelli, seconded by Board Member Huffman. All in favor? Carried. Thanks for joining us in person today, staff. Hi, I'm Mayor Amy Martin, and I'm here with the Director of Planning, Tricia Givens, to talk all things about Norfolk County planning and development. Hey Tricia, how are you?
Hi, Mayor Martin. Good, thanks.
I'm wondering if you could share some information with the public about who the planning department is and what you do, and maybe start off with the composition of your team.
Sure. We have recently grown, so there's some core groups in our team that are really important to share. We've got the development group, which is led by a supervisor of development planning and 5 planners. We have a new position, which is the project lead for long-range policy planning projects. We have our GIS team, which includes a supervisor and 2 technicians. And then we have our admin supports, which includes planning coordinator, development coordinator, and secretary treasurer.
And everybody has different roles and responsibilities, but on a high level, what are the roles and responsibilities of the planning department?
So we are required to do all things related to land use planning. So the number one piece is the Planning Act. There's a piece of legislation that sort of dictates and lays out the framework for how we work. So that's around development applications and people coming in with their specific applications. And then there's provincial policy conformity, so those broader county-wide projects.
And all of the planners, they're working towards, or they are registered professional planners. Can you comment on the designation of a planner and what that means when we're processing files?
Sure, that's really important. So as professional planners, we do have a standard of work and a code of conduct that we're required to follow. And in that, that's reviewing applications or running processes that broadly make sure we're planning for the role of the good of the community, the public good, and not always specific to one individual project.
I think it's an important part because I think it really differentiates the role of staff and council in the planning process. And it's something that I'm frequently asked about in the public. How does that work? What does it look like? So maybe you could share with the public the difference between, the council meetings that we host for planning files, our public hearings, our committee meetings, and then the subsequent council meeting where we approve files at a later date.
Sure. So there's two areas. So there's for specific development applications. So those are individual applications that come forward. And under the Planning Act, there's specific process and things that we're supposed to do. So for those applications, we are required to send notice to the public, post notice, share the information, have it publicly available. And then we bring that information of the complete application to council. First, we do a public hearing where folks can come and council hears about the application, poses questions, and then we come back later with a recommendation to council based on all of the information. The other types are those county-wide projects, such as a growth study or an official plan review, where there's more information, more opportunity for engagement, and we're collecting more information that comes to council. And usually there's multiple presentations to council before any decision.
So you've touched on a couple of things. One, what is a recommendation from staff? What does that mean?
That's really important. So ultimately, council makes the decision. So staff takes all of the technical information and our professional review of that particular application. And based on all of that, ensuring it conforms to our official plan, the Planning Act, the provincial policy statement, et cetera, we make a recommendation to council. And council takes that under advisement and ultimately makes a decision.
And that recommendation may be to approve the particular file in front of us, to reject it, to defer it to a later date. It could be a variety of different recommendations.
That's right.
Yeah. And so there is a really important piece, a role that the public plays during this process at that public hearing committee. So obviously council and staff, we really want to hear from the public when we're dealing with development files, but there's another reason why it's really important to get the public to speak and share input on the record. Can you comment on why that's so important?
Absolutely. So again, two specific areas, the specific development application or the broader county-wide projects. So for a specific application, it's important, I think, for staff and council to hear those neighborhood feedbacks, the input, and also to have their issues addressed. And then that informs the council decision. It also informs the planning recommendation to some degree. Similarly, for those broader county-wide projects, it's very important for staff to understand those perspectives and again to inform any recommendation to council.
And there is an appeal process to any decision that ends up being made by council, correct?
That's right. So that is for any statutory application. There is ability, and the rules are different depending on the type of application, but for the most part, there are opportunities to appeal those applications.
And it's important for members of the public to be on the record, either by way of written correspondence or speaking at a council meeting in favor or in opposition to a file if they're interested in appealing, right?
That's right. So staff are always really excited to see folks coming and giving their input. So we get things in writing all the time, but also folks can come in and share their input or ask their questions directly at the public hearing committee.
Yeah, I agree. It's so important to hear, and it's a way that it helps staff and council make informed decisions about the type of development we want to see in our community.
Absolutely.
And certainly as mayor, and I know you probably agree as a staff member, it's our preference to keep planning decisions made on a local level. We really don't ever like to see a file go off and be appealed.
That's right. And so on that note, council does play a key role in the planning process. Do you want to perhaps speak to how that works from a political perspective?
Sure, yeah, it's a lot different than the staff perspective, but it's that important piece where we connect with the community, we hear their feedback and their concerns, and as you mentioned, those recommendations come forward to council at the public hearing meeting first, where we can ask those questions and talk with our community members, but subsequently comes back to us later for a council decision. And we're similarly to staff, we're really stuck making decisions based on the land uses, not giving consideration to a lot of the other factors that I think community members believe council members can weigh in on. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to build the best community for all of Norfolk County, and we'll do it one file at a time.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we go, top 3 most asked questions that I get all the time. I'm going to rapid fire them to you. Are we planning on growing in Norfolk County?
So yes, in our official plan, we identify our growth. And right now, interestingly, we're undergoing our comprehensive municipal review, which is how Norfolk is going to grow to 2051.
And we've already touched on it earlier, but with that appeal process, it's very difficult to say no to development. So we should really be, at a local level, kind of carving out the development the way we want to see it in our communities. Second question, I'm often asked, why doesn't council say no to more planning files?
So that's an interesting question. So I'll start with our official plan. Our official plan identifies all the designated land uses in the county. The zoning bylaw overlays and identifies specifically what you can do on each property, each type of zone. So with the exception of hazard lands and some natural heritage features, there's identified permissions already in every zone across the municipality. So if somebody came for a building permit, they could get a building permit anyways. There's some instances where people want to change those uses, and that's when things come back to council for consideration. So in that context, council's considering that adjustment or that change.
But people can come to the planning department and they don't even need to come before council if their request meets those land uses.
That's right.
Okay. And then why do some planning applications feel like they take so much longer than others?
We often get that feedback. So under the Planning Act, there's very specific statutory timeframes for each types of planning application, and staff works really hard to meet those statutory timeframes. Sometimes we don't get all the information we need, or we realize partway through that some information was missing. But for the most part, staff are working towards meeting those statutory timeframes.
And they're the same across the province.
That's right,
correct?
across the province.
Every
they're the
municipality
same.
has them.
That's right.
Okay, thanks so much. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226-NORFOLK, extension 1842. Or you can email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks so much for watching.
Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We get a lot of questions at the Planning Department, and this video series will answer some of those. The first big question is, what is the official plan? Norfolk County's official plan describes council's policy on how lands in our community should be used, managed, and developed. It is prepared with community input and helps to ensure the future planning and development will meet the specific needs of our community. An official plan includes issues such as where new housing, industry, offices, and shops will be located, and what services like roads, water mains, sewers, parks, and schools will be needed. It also defines when and in what order our community will grow and outlines community improvement initiatives. The official plan is approved by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in Ontario. The current official plan was adopted in 2016 with a goal to manage the growth of this county for the next 20 years. Residents can see Norfolk County official plan on our website at norfolkcounty.ca/official plan. What is a secondary plan? A secondary plan is a more detailed policy document embedded within the official plan to address the growth and development issues unique to a specific area of the county. For example, the lakeshore area in Norfolk County or a particular urban area with defined characteristics can be a secondary plan. As I mentioned, it is a more detailed policy document. It provides directions on where future development will occur with a guideline on density, road access, infrastructure services, different building types, building heights, or even design guidelines that are compatible to that specific area. In Norfolk County, there is only one secondary plan at this moment, which is the Lakeshore Special Policy Area Secondary Plan. The Port Dover Secondary Plan would be the second plan the county is working on at this moment. What does the land use designation of a property mean? Norfolk County's official plan also identifies how individual land or a group of lands will be used, and this is done by the land use designation. In Norfolk County, a lot of lands have been designated as agricultural. Some areas have been designated as hazard lands because of their specific natural features. An example would be the natural creeks, streams, rivers, or shoreline areas. Some lands have been designated as residential, commercial, or industrial to efficiently manage the growth of specific land use. Each land designation has rules about the kind of development allowed. The official plan uses growth management data to identify where and how much growth will occur in the next 20 years. In accordance with the provincial requirement, Norfolk County reviews and updates these growth areas every 5 years. What is the process of changing an official plan designation? A landowner can request to change the designation of the land through an official plan amendment application. This change requires a public hearing meeting and council's decision. A landowner needs to consult with a planner to get more information about this process and to identify the required documents they must submit. Any official plan amendment needs to conform to the provincial policy statement, which is a planning policy document that affects all municipalities across Ontario. This provincial policy statement is currently under review and may change in the future. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Hannah from the Norfolk County Planning Department. We receive many questions at the Planning Department, and this video series will answer some of those, like, what types of planning applications are there? There are 4 main types of planning applications for different needs. First, there are minor variances and different types of severances. These are reviewed by Norfolk County's Committee of Adjustment. An example of a minor variance is when a garage is being built closer to a property line or is taller than what is permitted in the zoning bylaw. An example of a consent to sever is creating a new lot to allow for a new house. Second are zoning bylaw and official plan amendments that are considered at council. An example is changing the permission in an urban area to allow for a triplex where a single detached dwelling is permitted. Third are applications that Ontario's Planning Act gives Norfolk County's Planning Department authority to approve. For example, a draft plan of condominium or subdivision, which are types of applications which enable the division of land for future housing. And fourth are applications which rely on approval from another regulator, such as telecommunications towers and hazard land boundary line adjustments. As a resident, when do I need to submit a planning application? For the average homeowner, a planning application may be required if your project does not meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw or official plan, or your property falls under site plan control. The building department will let you know that a planning application is required. If you want to change the boundaries of your lot, create an easement, or create a new lot from your property, you will need to apply for a consent to sever with the planning department. What is a pre-consultation meeting? A pre-consultation meeting is the first step of a planning application and allows staff to clarify the application process and provide a checklist of documents required. A complete application can reduce the time required for review and decision-making. Applications that must undergo a pre-consultation meeting before the application can be submitted include official plan amendments, zoning bylaw amendments, draft plans of subdivision, draft plans of condominium, and site plan applications. A meeting may also be required for certain Committee of Adjustment applications. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842. You can also email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Hannah from the Norfolk County Planning Department. We receive many questions at the Planning Department, and this video series will answer some of those. A common question is, what is zoning? Zoning is a way of categorizing how land can be used. Norfolk County has identified through its zoning bylaw different land use zones, for example, commercial, agricultural, or residential, what they can be used for, and any required standards, for example, building size and location. Zoning must be maintained by any development or activity that has started from the date the zoning bylaw has been passed by the county. What is the process of changing a zoning bylaw? A common reason that residents are referred to the Planning Department is because their proposal does not meet the current zoning bylaw provisions. If a landowner wants to change the land use from what is permitted in the existing zoning, a change in the zoning bylaw would be required. For example, changing the permission from only a single detached dwelling to expand the permission to build a triplex. This is called a zoning bylaw amendment and it requires council's approval. A planning application known as a minor variance can be submitted for a minor change in the zoning bylaw, such as the height or size of a structure. Minor variances are reviewed by the Committee of Adjustment that is made up of citizen members who are appointed by council. The committee is governed by the Planning Act and holds public meetings to approve applications for minor variances and consents. A minor variance must meet the 4 tests to be approved. 1, the change is minor. 2, the development is desirable for the appropriate use of the land, building, or structure. 3, the change maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. And 4, the change maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. What happens after a decision is made by the Committee of Adjustment? If the committee approves an application, the applicant and anyone else involved is notified. Certain parties can appeal a decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal within a 20-day appeal period. If no appeals are filed, the county issues notice that the decision is final. For minor variances, an applicant can now proceed with the building permit process. For severances, specific conditions must be met within 2 years, or the application will expire and the process will need to restart from the beginning. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We've got a lot of questions here, and this video series will answer some of those. What is a severance? Severance is a planning process to separate a piece of land from an existing lot, generally for the purpose of a new development within a new lot. There are 3 different common types of severances we receive in Norfolk County. The first one is when a piece of land is separated to create a new parcel of vacant land. For example, a landowner may have a large lot and wish to separate a piece of land from the original lot with the intention to sell the lot to a new owner. In that case, both lots need to comply with existing zoning requirements such as setbacks of any existing or new buildings from the property lines. The second one is a surplus farm dwelling severance. It happens when a landowner purchases additional farmlands and a residence on one of the properties is no longer required for their farming operation. In this case, the owner can sever the piece of land that contains the redundant residential dwelling. And the third kind of severance can be a boundary adjustment between 2 adjacent properties, where one property owner agrees to transfer a piece of their land to the other owner. There are various reasons we received a boundary adjustment severance, such as to allow additional lands, to accommodate a building construction, or to construct an extended septic system, or to resolve the setback deficiency of an existing lot. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching. Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We've got a lot of questions here, and this video series will answer some of those. What is a subdivision? If a landowner would like to divide their property into 3 pieces of land, they can submit a severance application that we explained earlier. Whereas a subdivision application is required when a landowner has a piece of land large enough to divide into more than 3 or 4 individual lots to build new houses or other kind of developments. The subdivision process generally requires a more in-depth review with a longer processing time to ensure that the development meets county's development standards. What is a condominium? A condominium, often known as a condo, is an ownership model where the building or group of buildings is divided into multiple units that are surrounded by common areas for circulation, servicing, or amenities such as parks and open spaces. The common areas are jointly owned and managed by the owners of the units. Residential condominiums are frequently constructed as apartment buildings and townhouses with private roads. Many shopping malls are also commercial condominiums in which the individual retail and office spaces are owned by businesses that occupy them, while the common areas of the mall are collectively owned by these business entities. A condominium corporation is often made up of condo unit owners who manage and operate the condominium complex. What is the difference between a subdivision and a condominium? One of the main differences between a subdivision and a condominium development is who is responsible for providing services such as water, wastewater, and road maintenance after the construction and occupancy of the dwellings or units. In a subdivision, the county takes responsibility for providing these services to individual lots. On the other hand, in a condominium, the county is only responsible to providing services up to the entry point of the development. The condominium is responsible for distributing services and the maintenance to the individual units. How are subdivisions and condominiums approved? To get approval for a subdivision or condominium, the landowner must apply for approval of a draft of the plan that shows how many lots are proposed the lot size, how the lots will be accessed, including any new roads, and how the lots will be serviced for water and wastewater or other utilities. The planning team will provide guidelines to the landowner on the standards they need to comply with. Examples include road design, tree plantation, fencing requirements, and maintaining a buffer from any existing industrial or commercial sites, etc. Generally, the subdivision applications go to council for a decision, whereas most of the condominium applications are currently approved by the county staff under delegated authority. How are residents informed about a new subdivision? When a draft plan of a subdivision is approved, the neighbors receive an approval notice of the application. The neighbors have 20 days to appeal against the approval or refusal of the draft plan. Once the appeal period has expired, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done by the developer before beginning the construction. An approved draft plan of subdivision does not constitute a legal lot. It is merely a draft plan. Norfolk County must ensure that all lots are appropriately designed and serviceable through a subdivision agreement, and only then can the lots be registered and the owner can apply for a building permit. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching. Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We get a lot of questions here, and this video series will answer some of those. What is site plan control? Site plan control is a tool that planners use to evaluate a proposed development to ensure the site features and elements such as walkways, parking areas, and landscapings, and many other technical features meet specific standards. For example, standards may include engineering design, sustainability, and universal accessibility for barrier-free access to the building or within the property. What do I do if I have submitted a permit and I have learned my property is under site plan control? If a property is under a site plan control, the first step is to speak with a planner. A planner will need to learn about what is changing about the lands, which may or may not require a site plan application. What is a site plan waiver? Sometimes the nature of a development is so minor that a site plan application is determined to be unnecessary. In this instance, a site plan control will be waived. If you have learned from a planner that it is appropriate to waive a site plan control, you can submit an application form with any required documents to the planning department to receive a site plan waiver. Do all lands require site plan control? Not all lands require site plan control. For example, single detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, and townhouses that are serviced and accessed from a public road. Agricultural activities or farm buildings also do not require a site plan control. Most new commercial, institutional, and industrial developments require a site plan control. A site plan agreement with the landowner may be required to ensure that appropriate standards are maintained during the construction period. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching.
Hey, Norfolk County. Do you know how your property taxes are spent? Let's take a look together. First, we need to start with Norfolk County's budget. Every year, staff and council confirm the funds required to be collected from the property taxes paid by you and 35,000 other Norfolk County taxpayers. These funds contribute to Norfolk County's levy and capital budgets, which lay out how your tax dollars are used. The capital budget is also funded by the rate budget, the funds paid by residents known as ratepayers for water and wastewater services through their monthly water bill. The levy budget is used to deliver programs and services for residents ranging from emergency services like fire and EMS, waste services like garbage collection, recreation services like arenas, trails, and parks, maintenance services like snow removal and road repair, and human services like homelessness prevention and health education programs. Our levy budget also supports our libraries and museums, administrative services for council, and the many staff who keep Norfolk County operating. Services like recreation programs for children, adults, and seniors, and our Ride Norfolk transit program are also paid for with property taxes and supplemented by user fees. And across Ontario, a portion of each resident's property tax bill goes to our local school boards. About a third of the property taxes collected are allocated to the capital budget or reserves for future capital spending, which includes other funding sources like the federal and provincial government, reserve funds, grants, debt, and development charges, as well as funds from the rate budget. Together, the capital budget goes toward longer-term projects, such as our investments in water and wastewater facilities, as well as building and renewing our parks, roadways, pools, arenas, and other things we use every day. So the next time you hear someone ask, "Where are my property taxes going?" you can tell them to look down, look up, and look forward. Your tax dollars are at work all around you every day. When you visit your local park with your family, drive to work on cleared roads, register for swimming lessons, get rid of that old couch you've outgrown, or contact Service Norfolk about that pothole on your street that needs to be fixed. Your tax dollars are also being invested in initiatives to improve the lives of Norfolk County residents in the years to come to make Norfolk County a better place for future generations. While Norfolk County's budget is prepared once a year, your feedback helps us make decisions and plan for the future. We are committed to listening to you so that our budget reflects what is important to our community. Learn more about Norfolk County's budget at norfolkcounty.ca/budget.
Hey Norfolk County, did you know that Ride Norfolk is now on demand? This means you can schedule Norfolk's public transit service to pick you up for appointments, shopping, school, or work. Ride Norfolk has partnered with Blaze Transit to offer on-demand pickups at all 95 stops across Norfolk, including this one. I booked my trip earlier today and my bus is here right on time. Since there are no fixed local schedules, you can easily book Ride Norfolk over the phone, online, or on the Blaze Transit app from your smartphone. Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Ride Norfolk's customer service team can help answer any questions you may have, get you started with the app, or book your next ride. By moving to on-demand, Ride Norfolk is helping more residents get where they need to go. To learn more, visit norfolkcounty.ca/transit.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm here to take you behind the scenes for a quick look at what we do at Norfolk County's water treatment facility. Here in Port Rowan, the water treatment process starts by pumping water from Lake Erie up into the water treatment facility. Back in the treatment facility, I inspect large clarification tanks where the lake water enters the plant. Here we add coagulant, a chemical that attracts dirt particles together. These form into larger particles called flock, which eventually sinks and is sent to waste. Next, the water enters the filtration system where any remaining dirt particles are trapped by the filters. The water is then chlorinated and sent into a 113 cubic meter underground storage chamber. The water is then taken to the granular activated carbon filters that work like supersized 10,000-pound Brita filters to remove taste and odor. The final step is disinfection, which includes UV and a final dose of chlorine, ensuring safe, potable drinking water. Water testing is an important part of the job. Throughout the day, we take water samples at different stages of the process, up to 9 tests, depending on the treatment facility.
Okay, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to reconvene in open session at 2:08 p.m. Moved by Board Member Van Andrieschy, seconded by Board Member Duthie. All in favor? Carried. And the following matters were addressed in close. HSS 24010, strengthening public health, was received as information, so we can do that in open. Moved by Board Member Van Passen, seconded by Board Member Huffman. All in favor? Carried. And a confirming bylaw 2024-2-BH to approve the confirming bylaw for today's meeting. Moved by Board Member Van Andrieschy, seconded by Board Member Duthie. All in favor? and a motion to adjourn at 2:09 p.m. Moved by Board Member Huffman, seconded by Board Member Duthie. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll reconvene at 3 p.m.